Hi everyone, this is Michelle Samuels for Why Goals ID, and today we're on to another topic. We're kind of still under the umbrella of love, but from a friendship standpoint. I'm just comparing it to the concept of enemies. There are so many videos online about friends and their behavior patterns around connections and also rivals and who is a nemesis and so on. So we're gonna explore the topic today a bit because it's quite interesting what I've found in my research. And if you listen until the end, I guess we'll both get some clarity on some information around this topic, especially a few surprises, I think. So the first of which we're gonna start with is, you know me, I'm gonna start. Well, you know me to a certain degree in regard to these conversations. So, my first point of exploring a topic or one of is to look at the root of the word. So, I mean, I had some thoughts in my mind about what friend meant because I'd looked at the meaning a couple years ago and I knew there was possible. No, actually, I was looking at relationships. So the friend element of it, I'm just recently exploring in terms of the root. So I'd mixed it up a bit with relationship, which is there's some connection, but we're looking at the actual word. So I was thinking, well, I'm sure more than likely something might be in there that challenges the meaning of the word or justifies why people behave in the way they do in terms of the patterns that deviate from the whole idea around the term, because friendship would you would think would be connected to loyalty and like similarities in thinking and so on. But when I did look at the friend word, I was very pleased. It says one attached to another by feelings of personal regard and preference, love a friend to love. So there's connection between love and friend. Okay, no problem. But as I read on, it said meaning a Quaker. It's from 1670. Fiend, originally enemy. So I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. Like, that's where the enemy. So I looked up fiend, enemy, foe, adversary, hating, hostile. Some crazy meanings here, to be honest. Not crazy, but it's just to love. Oh yeah, it says both are from the active participles of the Germanic verbs for to love and to hate. So, on the basis of the meaning of the word and what that which we've identified, we can see that maybe there's a total misconception when we're forming connections and relationships on the basis of saying that, oh, we're in pursuit of, or we're hoping to connect with somebody as a friend. Being a friend varies for different people as well, but we'll get into that a bit later on. So we moved on to looking at enemy, and enemy for one hateful toward and intent on harming someone. Wow. Enemy in war, personal enemy. Most Indo-European words for personal enemy and enemy in war. So when you're going into a friendship, based on what we see in here, and we're gonna explore the topic, do some extraction, and look at it from a logical perspective outside of the emotional. I think the what we've been sold on friendship is not true to what the reality of friendships are, and where it may go wrong is stemming from the meaning of how the word operates. So if if you're going into any form of friendship or connection, one should be prepared based on how the word operates to naturally encounter situations like disagreement, harmful intent, feud, war, opposing, this is opposing military forces, under the mask of which it comes with a connection to love. I guess you could see some logics in the love element because love, there's a two way exist in a reality where there must be balance. So I guess if you have a friend, then you should be prepared for the possibility that they may turn out to be an enemy at some point, or somebody that deviates from what was expected in terms of how they would operate. But one has to also recognize that the very design and way in which people, yeah, the very design of people does not necessarily match or is not similar across the board as it relates to connections, networking, and creating bonds between people. So one person may be designed to have many friends, while another person may be designed to have fewer friends, and another one designed to have one or two friends selectively. It depends on the individual that's going into the friendship or friendships. Now, if friends, let's look at it logically. If friends has an underlying subset that's connected to fiend and enemy and war and harmful intent, as well as balancing back with love, it means that we could hypothesize that the more friends that you do have, the more one should be prepared for the possibility of one should be prepared for the possibility of many people coming up against one individual at some point, or a few people at different points along the tangent, or one or two individuals. Now the question is, why is it that some people are more inclined to be harmful in their intent, or just underline negative characteristic traits or higher levels of competition when it comes to friendships? It could be based on the way the word is designed. It's almost like with there's an inevitable end at some point to the connect to the possibility of the connection. So some friends, well, friendship is not necessarily supposed to last forever in some regard. So there's a higher percentage that the friendship will end. So if you have more friends, then possibly you have more endings around the connections. It's almost like it's necessary to go on a search in order to identify the right parties in line with the friendship. But I think the preparation of your mind in term with regards to connecting with others is very important, because going in under the guise or the misconceived idea that friendship lasts forever, which does happen with some people, but it's very rare. And for an individual to find a friend that is very loyal and stays with you means that maybe the parties would have to change in similar directions, as well as the underlying issues of comparison would have to be addressed as well. It's almost like there are similarities between how the two words function, friends and enemies. And the enemy side of it is more about competition and whether or not you'll be visible to other individuals more so than the other person, and what can you go after. This is the enemy term. What can you go after that secures what is yours? So it's highly embedded in competition and and almost a dissemination of the other person to the degree where they're almost lost in the picture. But if you look at the two words, there are similarities between them from the constructs of saying that, it would be whatever connects the two people on some level, whatever connects them in terms of similarity. So you kind of go out looking for somebody who has similar values, similar mindset. And what you find is that sometimes we end up calling them friends, but friends from the misconceived idea that, it will never end, and disregarding the fact that they're not disregarding, because there's a lot of information about why people get jealous, why competition exists, and why people will be so calculating and harmful when there should be trust elements in the connection, and to a certain degree love between the two parties, love from a humanitarian standpoint, and love from a standpoint of just one person to another. But this is not like happening yesterday. It's not rocket science. You have friends that will be there for you if, hypothetically speaking, they see that you're down, and the reason or reasons behind which they're there for you, is it that they're really there for you, or are they being there for you on the scale that it will show that they're more powerful, the powerful are in a better position than you are, and to actually say, do you know what, I can actually be there for you on a higher level, but I'm gonna take the opportunity to show that I'm more powerful. I should be more visible. I've achieved more. So I'm gonna do just the bare minimum to highlight your insecurities, your losses, your mistakes, and so on. So one has to be careful when you have friends that are supportive to a certain degree, and you're looking for the sincerity in the friends, but your mindset in the whole situation is more important than what the other person does, because although sometimes you can be, you can find yourself in unexpected situations. However, let's say you project that, you can get support from friends and so on. I think your mindset is very um it's like an important piece of the puzzle, because if you go in with you, it's almost like you have to go in with a sense of humility in order to position yourself, or not going at all, and deter, like, set the stage or the parameters for the type of friendship that you're going into. So you want to be like safeguarding yourself, because if you don't safeguard yourself, then it's almost like the person can destroy you. It's because subconsciously some people go in with a war mentality. So they have two sides to them in terms of their response. So this friends and enemies idea, the flip side of which is that sometimes the great enemies that you are face to face with, on some level you can relate to, and that's why you're enemies. Because if your enemy is similar to you, let's say your enemy is very competitive, but they're just forthright with it. They're straight up, that they're competitive. They're gonna try and take you out in terms of you take you out from the position that you're in. They're gonna go after a share of what you have. They're gonna try and be seen more than you to the society or individuals or within the family constructs. You that is expected. So you create, it's almost like you create this protection mechanism around yourself, and it actually pushes you to up your game if you choose to. But the danger of the friends element of it is that you're going in under the misconception that it's a misconception, as well as it's almost like a strategic move on your side. Because if you really look at it, maybe you're going in because you think maybe the friendship that you're forming, you can say you're looking for a genuine connection, but you're still operating from the premise of being able to be the best version of yourself around this person and to be able to excel at the highest level. So if you're looking to excel at the highest level, maybe subconsciously you may be inclined to want to be around people that, celebrate you, highlight you, that there's certain values, gifts, whatever. It could be personality, it could be any characteristic traits that they can either learn from, or you can actually say, oh well, I'm pleased to be myself. So there's less challenging as well from the viewpoint of the friendship. But if you look at the term friendship, there's a high level of arrogance in the whole connection. And it's not arrogance, it can be arrogance from the viewpoint of being arrogant, not in such a bad way. So there's a pride to it, a haughtiness. So here it says treatment of others, love of display. So how you treat how haughtiness, presumption, especially as one of the unreasonable self-esteem. So if pride is embedded in the core aspects of the word, it's as if you're carrying an irrational, illogical way of having a high level of pride. But then it also balances it out, because it's as if that pride goes as well, that haughtiness goes as well, because the friendship element has a balancing element, but it balances more towards um it's almost, it can go from one extreme to the next. So it can either be to the destruction of one's haughtiness or unreasonableness as it relates to your self-esteem. So you will encounter experiences that that challenges the way you think, the way you operate, the way you behave. And if you're not clued up, and if you're not paying attention, you just go under the assumption that the way the words operate and the way they become true in reality is almost a grouped idea. So it works along the tangent, the same for everyone. But friendship, or even enemies, can be a very, very dangerous situation to be in. And it can be one of the most productive, highly ridden opportunities that presents itself. Because in friendship, it's almost like there are aspects to it where you will have to choose between who you are, who you want to be, and what part of you are willing to let go to secure and continue in the direction of the connection with a friend. And depending on the design of the two individuals or the group, everybody's relationship will be different. That's why there'll be a group of, let's say, for example, three people. And in the group, one person gets along or on us can relate more to the other person, even though they do connect all of them as a group. And they have similarities in the design. But what happens is one will get along with one more, or one would be more open with the other one, but one would not necessarily share certain things. It depends on how the elements come together, how the personalities react together, and how the overall concept of the group idea, which is friendship or enemies, operates. So going into different forms of friendships, hoping that everybody will be the same, is almost egotistical. And a lot of times, what happens if you look at both terms, what happens is most people, it's almost like they're trying to find some aspects of themselves, as well as they go out looking for people that reminds them of certain characteristic traits that they have. Or it's almost like it can be borderline, and I don't want to use this word because it's so much used loosely online. It can be borderline narcissism. It's almost like you're looking for a reflection of you, but you're unwilling to accept the different versions or experiences that come along, or variations that occur as a result of how the whole idea operates. So you want to be very careful, because having friends or enemies, or enemies that disguise themselves as friends, it comes with a sense of responsibility. It's almost, you, you have to be careful, I think, what you teach others about connecting, or even what you teach yourself, and especially the younger generation. If you don't have a clear concept of how friendship works, to create bonds that the younger generation or the children aren't really equipped to manage, it can be very daunting on who they are and the core aspects of their personalities that are being built with embeddings. Because when they encounter these different individuals that they themselves, they are trying to figure out what is friendship, what is connection, who am I. So the children, sorry about that, it's early in the morning over here. The children going with a and it's almost like they're not guarded in themselves, they're not really prepared, they're going with an open heart, and they just automatically think that the way they are, that's the way the other person will be towards them. So it's almost like they have to learn the skills necessary to be able to interact with others before even interacting. And the reason why it may be before is because, and this goes for adults too, and the reason why it may be before, let me go on the children idea first. The reason why it may be before is because they're better equipped to be able to keep the core values or the core aspects of their design that causes them to be moved or spiraled to the greater version of themselves. So this is why some people go into withdrawal mode from it. Sometimes when they're going, they have all these things that I guess when one is doing very well, a lot of attraction of different people, a lot of different people may be attracted to them, and it could be based on the search in themselves that they're going through. And then there's this abrupt point where it's necessary for it's possible that they might go into withdrawal mode and just disconnect from all of the people that they encountered previously, to go back in with a stronger version of themselves. Inevitably, based on what I'm seeing here, a lot of friendships will come to an end. But one needs to understand that, because there's so much similarities in the characteristic traits sometimes of one's enemies, from a competition leadership standpoint, it could be from an achievement standpoint, it could be just the way they operate within the environment. But based on the greater aspirations that they have as individuals, there's a clash. But you're kind of more prepared from the viewpoint of being able to handle. It's almost like you can be more strategic when handling enemies, which many times could be friends in disguise. I don't think anybody really goes in. Well, it can happen, of course. People can prepare themselves for the idea that, I'm gonna go in, befriend this person, but I have an agenda, or the person has an agenda. It happens all the time. And most times, what might happen is that it's either that you have to go in the pursuit of these people, or they have to be in pursuit of you. So if many people are in pursuit of you, from a friendship standpoint, one has to ask oneself, well, it may be that you carry certain characteristic traits that you can actually market without looking at the money aspect of it. You can market across the board. If you can find those values in your matches in yourself that are similar to other people, and they can fully relate to that, and you can find that balance as well between actually understanding the human experience within the context of how the words operate. You can find that balance between knowing something will come to an end, knowing that it's ongoing, and even being able to identify when somebody is being deceptive. Then that in itself is a very powerful characteristic trait to have. And if one can get the respect of one's enemies to the degree where they know that you're an enemy because of competition, because of aspirations, because of wanting to be the highlight, or for many people to tap into who they are and connect with them. There's value in so many different aspects of friendship and enemies if it is that you can manage it properly. But going in from an emotional standpoint, saying, oh, I want to connect with people, I have this need, and let's do this, let's do that socially, and whatever. This may only work to a point, because when you have people who are closely connected to you, it gives them the ability to be able to almost see different parts of you that the enemy wouldn't necessarily see. So it's like it creates a strategic advantage for them if they're not genuine, or let's not say genuine, if they're misaligned on the path with you in terms of you wanting something solid. But you want to be fair as well. You want to be fair, because I think all parties are going in with the intention to be able to compete. This is just the natural order, or well, it automatically, that's the natural order of things. So sometimes you have to go in and be, well, you're going in very cautious. And caution doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna not have any friends at all. It just means that, you're gonna be very careful in your approach. So friendship in itself is not only friendship, but like from a networking standpoint, warn, exhort to heed, caution. Yeah. From a networking standpoint, sometimes some of the greatest connections come from networking and having friends, or even enemies that have like outcomes that are similar if they come together and negotiate from that viewpoint. It's almost like knowing who your enemy is, but when to take a break from being enemies if it's in line with the strategic good of what needs to be achieved. It's almost like putting a pause on it, because it will position the two parties on a higher level, or one more than the other, but still both higher. Or just, it can be not monetary gain, but the gain on some level. from a different perspective. So you want to be very cautious with your strategic approach when you're going in and you're doing your life plan. It's not only about it's not only about money, planning, numbers, and so on. It's about interaction with people and understanding how people operate, think, how they're designed, what caters to their needs. It's almost like preempting how one would move without allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And if you're vulnerable, it's almost like selective. So I think no matter which direction you really go, from a friendship standpoint or enemies, it's all about strategy. And I guess from the friendship standpoint, you just have to ask yourself, is it that you're going to be strategic to your personal advantage because the other person is going to be, because other person more than likely is connecting with you because there's something that you have that they want, or they can tap into, or they can relate to. So they're not around you just for being around you. They're around you for their own pleasure, accomplishments, or whatever. Although some people can be designed to actually go in and be very supportive because that's just the way they are. But you might select another friend because it doesn't push you in the direction of challenging yourself. So we want to be cautious when we're looking at our networks and the friendships that we form and who we suggest to ourselves that is an enemy, because even an enemy you can learn from. And usually the enemy has similar traits or maybe more advanced or traits that you would want to reach towards, and that's why there's a focus on that person or group. So learning from others is one of the imperatives around the whole idea. Imperatives are not that word, but learning from others is pivots one in the direction of a greater understanding of self. So we're gonna close right now and just say to you guys, thank you so much for listening again. And obviously, we're doing some. Well, not obviously, sorry, I live in London, and it's just like they say. Obviously, I picked it up. Yeah, we're putting out a lot of videos, different versions of videos. So you'll get the 1 minute shorts as well as, with some, it looks like some form of advertising, but it's not. It's just a short video for the channel, as well as, we're doing this like podcast type idea moving forward to explore, the receptiveness of the listeners as well. And then, we have some plans coming up, don't worry. I know you guys are thinking, why is it that she doesn't show her face and so on, but that's coming around because we've done that too. But we're tapping into different versions of how people connect with information, as well as how we relate the information over to our audience. So we're gonna close right now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget make a comment. We're really looking forward to that. Press the like button if it works for you, and have a fantastic weekend. Be careful about